Elio guys, and welcome back. I definitely hope you guys are all enjoying Eroica here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about pre-cores, and this was requested by, I believe your name is pronounced Palu. Don't slaughter me if I pronounce that wrong, but let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so I'm going to go over here to the Heroes tab real quick, show you guys some of my heroes. If you guys are interested in checking out my account, I can make a separate video for that, but since we're talking about pre-cores, let's go over here to my boy Gaffs, because he's honestly my favorite character so far in terms of Eroica, because I've been playing for, well, too long, but we're not going to talk about that. But anyways, in regards to the character UI screen, the pre-core is always located on the top left of the screen, which is right here, and we can click on that, and then a brief explanation of what it is. So the most important part about pre-cores is that they can kind of alter your character and make them act in certain ways that may be more beneficial towards certain situations here. So for my Gaffs, for example, right now he's rocking the Sage of Fire, aka the Sage of Booba Xenia here, but we can see that this pre-core is the SSR rank, which is the highest pre-core rank, and at the bottom right below the name to the bottom left, we also see that this pre-core adds in 230 attack. It's a flat stat, and also 343 defense to my boy Gaffs, which is lovely. And then of course at the bottom right we do have a photo of baby girl Xenia herself here, but the money part about the pre-cores is going to be this section right here. So it's very important that you guys pay attention to this right here. I'll make sure I kind of highlight it or circle it in the video here, because the game allows you to essentially equip any pre-core that you want. If you're not reading, it's going to be like, congratulations, you played yourself. Because if you put this slasher equipped effect pre-core on a unit that's not a slasher, good luck. It literally states right here that only way for this to take effect is for it to be on the class or the element of whatever unit that you're putting it on for it to activate here. Now below that, let's go ahead and say that you guys got that down pack, because some of these pre-cores also can be equipped on all of the characters in the game, which in most cases, if it's a free-for-all in terms of that pre-core, it's not the best, but a pre-core up there is better than nothing as long as you don't invest too heavily into it. So in terms of the passive skill, just reading what it does here, it says when attacked, there's a 35% chance to decrease the cooldown of skill 2 by 1, and it does use some of your burst gauge as well. And then the active skill says damage of skill 2 is increased by 60%, and it also uses some of your burst gauge. So in case you're curious of, okay, what's skill 2? How do I know that this makes any sense? So for Gaffs in particular here, this is going to be skill 2 just by the way that Eroica names stuff. I know in my definitive beginner's guide, which if you guys haven't read already, the link to that is in the description below here, I was indicating that this is your basic attack and this is S1 and S2, but in terms of the whole pre-core terminology, when it says skill 2, it's saying the second skill in the slot here, which is this lovely skill. So for Gaffs, my whole thought process of taking advantage of this pre-core was spamming Blazing Rise, because what does Blazing Rise do? It deals 140% of attack damage to a target, and it also reduces the Proof of Loyalty's cooldown by 1 turn. That's his skill right here. This is high single target damage, which puts a smile on my face, and if I can potentially do this skill once again and get that Proof of Loyalty cooldown lowered by 2 turns if the pre-core is activated too, or in theory if it's activated, then that right there is just smiley face gaming. So that's the whole point and the whole reasoning behind that. And this also helps to kind of boost up some of its damage as well, giving him yet again another move that can do some spicy damage hopefully here. So going back to the pre-core, we see that it also increases the damage of skill 2, and if he gets hit, there is a chance for that skill to be lowered by 1. So if it's lowered by 1, I get to spam that skill once again a turn sooner, and I can hopefully lower the cooldown of his third skill a turn sooner, and thus get that out a lot more quickly. So the biggest selling point of pre-cores is just making sure that you're equipping them on characters that number 1 could take advantage of the effect, and number 2 that it makes sense on here. Using my lovely Orslaha as an example, she has the legendary Gladiator pre-core, and we can see right here, as I stated before, it can be equipped by all the characters inside the game, and for its passive skill it says if you inflict crit damage on an enemy, there's a 20% chance to trigger a pincer attack with a random ally, and then for the active skill here, triggers pincer attack with the ally with the highest attack. So while that is lovely, the whole ratio or the whole probability of this move going off isn't really that great. But the main selling point of this pre-core, at least for right now on my Orslaha, is going to be that 40 added attack speed, and then we also get a little bump in terms of her attack in general. general. So hopefully this can have her act a little bit sooner in a PvP situation and dish out just a tiny bit more damage. Now I'm not going to go on record here and say that this is the best Precor ever. I could probably give her something better, but this is what she had equipped at this point in time. I should definitely redo this after the video here, but if it works out, that's free extra damage. If it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't work out. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Moving on next though, let's take a look at my Malavi before I wrap things up, because hopefully you guys basically understand the premise of Precors. So my Malavi is rocking a Descent of Devil Precor, and you know, just in case you're curious, will this Precor work on my character here? So it says Shadow Equipped Effect. So let's click off that. Malavi's a Shadow type. We're good to go. Let's keep on moving here. So the passive skill says it increases her own turn gauge by 17% when dealing a death blow to an enemy. This is great in a PvP situation if she kills someone, especially with her Dragon Ascension skill, where if the target has a lot higher HP, if you choose to do that option, she'll deal more damage to that target. And then also, because she's an AoE, there is a high chance, depending on the enemy's HP, that someone will pass away. So that buffs out. And then for the active skill though, it says after using a skill, activate skill 1 again. So what this is saying is that congratulations, if you use the skill, then she gets to act once again. I do understand that this is her basic attack here, which if we click off here and take a look at it, it says it deals 120% of her attack damage to a target, and there's a 25% chance to inflict burn for 1 turn. You know, this isn't anything super OP. Basic attacks in general aren't anything super OP, but I figured if there's a chance where I'm already burning a target because I've done Dragon Breath, and then I've also spammed Dragon Ascension hopefully, and especially if you go with the, I believe it's the second option with the 75% chance to burn them for 3 turns, we already in theory have, what is that? We would already in theory have hopefully 2 or 3 burn stacks up there, and while the probability is low, if it works out here, we can hopefully get another burn stack up there just by using that Precor. So it's like the added icing on the cake here in terms of how you want to build your characters, and don't feel like you have to use the same Precors that I'm using on my characters, because they honestly are unoptimized, and I'm definitely not afraid to say that whatsoever. But that's just a basic understanding of the Precor. Make sure it affects the class or the unit element that you're using that Precor on, and also make sure that it makes sense when you equip it. Like, keep in mind that if it's referencing skill 1, it's saying the first skill in the slot. If it's referencing skill 2, the second skill in the slot. And then if it's referencing skill 3, it's the third skill in the slot here. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of customization that could go on with this. And especially if you're doing more PvP or Crucible type content, then it's really going to depend on what Precor that you have on that character. But we do have that lovely swap button. And one last tip before we go, enhancing the Precors is, as literally everything else in this game, is just feeding in copies of what you have prior here, and once that Precor hits its max level, we can then ascend it. And I will say that the SSR, like ascension materials for the Precors, isn't anything to kind of scoff at either, because they are quite a bit rare. I had 6 before this video, but I ended up using 1, so make sure you're picking and choosing wisely of what you want to use. I personally try to gravitate towards the SSR and the SR skills, but there's probably a useful rare skill in terms of the Precors hidden amongst all the dirt, but it's up to you to figure that out. I just figured I would kind of explain what's going on here, but the SSRs in most cases are kind of what you want to gravitate towards, if not the SRs. And don't invest too heavily in like the normal ones and the rare ones just because they're lower quality. I mean, don't be using excessive Precor material on those lower level pieces of garbage Precors when, congratulations, the next day you pull some SSR Precors and you're like, well, I have nothing to feed it into. But yeah, I definitely hope this video helped you guys, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.